Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Deep Six Podcast, coming to you from somewhere just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Of course, this is your host, Steven Spivak, joined today by my wonderful, ever so lovely co-host, Mr. Matthew Barnes. Matt, how are you?
Hey, what's going on?
We gotta figure out what we're gonna talk about today. You saw Wonder Woman last night.
Sure did.
I really want to get your true thoughts on the film, but I don't want you to spoil anything. Is that possible?
I'm not sure. I can try.
I mean,
I think it's difficult for me to really say 100% what I thought about the movie without delving too far in. So if you feel like I'm going too far, just stop me.
It doesn't matter to me. Truthfully, I'm going to see it one way or another. And I mean, nothing is going to surprise me, I guess.
Well, I mean, the same thing should hold either way then. If you think I'm going too far, just stop me.
Okay, so I know last night after you saw the movie, you texted me.
Yeah.
And you seemed very underwhelmed.
Yeah.
So
I think that's appropriate for what my reaction is to the movie.
So what did you think?
And I'll totally preface that by saying that I acknowledge that I'm going to be in the minority of this movie, and I know that without having heard a reaction from the majority of the people that have seen the movie so far. I mean, I know a handful of people who have seen the movie. My brother saw the movie last night. He really liked it. A couple friends of mine who are also big DC Comics fans have seen the movie. They like the movie.
So real quick, the people that you know who have seen it, are they more fans of Marvel movies than you are?
No.
So
generally speaking, I don't think my brother really has a dog in the fight. He's just more of a I'll see anything.
Yeah. Because I know,
like an uber comic fan.
I know, or as our listeners,
but my buddy Chad, the founder, the owner, the proprietor of horror movie BBQ, he's a big DC Comics fanatic, and much like me, was really waiting for this movie, and he absolutely loved it. And think I could pull up my phone and go to the chat log, but I think my first words to him about it, because I was waiting for him to go see the movie, because I think he saw like an 8 o'clock show and I saw a 7:20.
Okay.
And so I was waiting like another 40 minutes after I got out of the movie to try to get a reaction. I didn't hear from him, so I sent him a message and I was like, so that was something. And he was like, no, don't you do it to me. Don't you let me down. And I was like, I don't think it was that good. I mean, I think that he loved the movie. And I tried to get a hold of him to see if he would come on the show and talk to us, just to get a contrarian point of view to mine. Yeah, I don't know. I expected it to be better. And I'm not going to say that the movie was really lacking anything. I don't think it was missing anything. I just think it was more like script issues and general filmmaking concerns I had with the movie.
See, filmmaking concerns to what extent?
I think the editing was really fucking terrible.
Because I saw a few people talking about it on my Facebook feed who had seen it. Actually, someone I know had actually seen it early, and I don't remember who exactly it was, but someone on my Facebook feed managed to say that it was one of the best action films that they've seen.
I'm not going to go that far because there's not that many action scenes in it. I think the action scenes that are in it are really good, and I think the way that the movie's scored really drums up emotion for the action scenes.
I also
so I think that really works well.
Yeah,
but there's not that many action scenes in it.
I've also heard that a lot of people are comparing it to the first Captain America movie.
Well, obviously there's going to be some of that in it just based upon the structure of the story of the film, where you're going back in time to see her backstory.
Yeah,
much like Captain America, where you're kind of getting this bookend of it's a capsicle, and you're seeing what happened to him to get him there, and then he wakes up, and this movie's kind of bookended in the same way, where she kind of has like a Pepperidge Farm remembers Wonder Woman, its backstory. I was willing to overlook a lot of stuff with like the first 20 minutes of the movie are very exposition-y. Like well, here's the history of the Amazons, Diana. You need to learn this because you're a little girl. And I was willing to overlook that because, there's a lot of mythos they have to establish for the DC universe because they had this idea of, we need to have a universe to compete with Marvel. But they wanted to have a universe without putting all the work into having a universe.
Yeah. But we've also discussed this before, I believe, or I was discussing this with somebody else, is when you present these characters on film to a mass audience who might not know the backstory, you kind of have to explain it. So I guess it's always going to be...
but this is like ultra exposition-y because you're dealing with like Greek mythology and stuff like that.
So it's stuff you should have learned in like high school.
Not necessarily because, like,
something you should have somewhat of a basic knowledge
the DC Amazons aren't part of like actual Greek mythology. But you should know, like,
but you should have an understanding of what it is. Yeah,
Ares
exactly.
is the god of war. You fucking have a PlayStation. Fucking know Ares is the god of war. And that's, they already revealed that Ares was the villain of the movie a couple weeks ago. They said it in articles that Ares is the villain of the movie, so this wasn't a secret going in. So I was willing to overlook stuff like the exposition because I understand, DC's kind of painted themselves into a corner with trying to establish the mythos of their movies within the movies because they weren't willing to put the backstory time in to establish their universe. And then, and also I'll say that I think the acting was really good. DC's done really well with their casting choices. I'd say they're right up there with Marvel in terms of really having, a good eye for who should be playing their parts. I think for the most part, nobody would argue that their casting is really spot on.
No, I think if anything, through DC's run of films, at least over the last few years, their casting's been pretty spot on. I don't think there's been any characters where I've been like, that doesn't feel like what I want that character to feel like.
I think even if you don't like their casting in some aspects, where you're like, well, I don't see Lex Luthor being Mark Zuckerberg. Even if you're like, I don't really like that, you're like, but I'm interested to see it.
Yeah.
Because I think, Jesse Eisenberg is a really good actor, so I'm interested to see what he does with it.
I would think the only casting that's really not been favorable, in my opinion, would be Ben Affleck as Batman, but
when you see the movie, he's
disagree.
fucking phenomenal as the part.
I mean, I haven't really seen
everybody
him
went
play.
into the movie thinking that he was going to be a negative because they were like, oh, I can't see Ben Affleck being Batman. And then you go into the movie, and a lot of people came out of the movie saying, okay, now I can't see anybody else being Batman because he was so good as the part.
I mean, I haven't truly seen him play the character much outside of clips of Batman versus Superman that I've seen or trailers for most of the DC stuff because, as we've discussed off the podcast, I have not seen Batman versus Superman. I passively watched Man of Steel. I'm not very much up on the DCEU as it is. So I think the only film that's technically in the DCEU that I've seen is Suicide Squad.
Sure, and
so
I
that's
think
like
that
very loosely.
When you really look at their movies, the movies that they've tried to mass market are Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman, so that makes more sense because they weren't marketing the other two movies towards you, I don't think.
No. And we've also had this discussion that we both feel that marketing, at least for Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad, has seemed to lean more towards targeting that Marvel audience.
Of course.
Which is clearly me.
Yeah. And like I said, I think the acting was really good, and the chemistry between, the actors on screen was really good. Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman. I think when you see her play the part, she just is the part at this point. You just can't see anybody else playing the part now. And she didn't make a lot of sense at the time when she was cast. But now that you see her play the part, she very much is the part.
What else has she been in?
Like Fast and the Furious and a bunch of other small
She was in
things.
Fast and the Furious?
Not the original, like the sequels.
Which one?
Like 4 and 5.
She was?
Yeah. She gets sucked into the jet engine.
Wasn't 4 the one where they like tried to reboot it, like soft reboot it?
No, that was 3, Tokyo Drift. And they're like, oh, that didn't work. We'll just bring back Vin Diesel now.
I don't remember.
Regardless, she was in she was in those, and that's about it. A bunch of other small stuff, but she's great. Chris Pine is great. What's her face that plays Ed
What's her face? My favorite.
No, she was in The British Office with Ricky Gervais, Lucy Davis, David Thewlis, who's in, he's of course in Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
So the cast is just phenomenal. Danny Houston, who played Stryker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the casting or anything of that would be anything anyone could complain about.
Yeah, so these are things that made me overlook some of the problems. Then there's just things started to add up, I think, towards the end of the movie for me, where, I'm going into, towards the end of the movie, and I'm just like, ugh, groan-inducing.
Did it go on too long?
No, it's just like they just shoehorn in like an unnecessary romance angle. Then like the big MacGuffin for like Wonder Woman overcoming all her shit and like defeating the villain is like, oh, this man I just came to love died. I just met him 4 days ago, but he died. Like, I feel like, and this is what I think people are going to overlook because they're like, oh, well, we got Wonder Woman and the action scenes were really badass. Is like, I feel like the filmmakers had a responsibility in making the first female superhero movie to make her a hero that stands on her own. And like, she doesn't need anybody else. Like, she's just badass by herself.
Yeah.
And I feel like the message coming out of this now is like, hey, little girl, like you can absolutely be anything you want to be.
As long as you have
But just
a man.
make sure you find love, because if you don't, you'll never beat Ares.
That kind of sours me on even wanting to go see it now.
And that's what I took away from it. Now, people can tell me that I'm wrong, but I think you didn't really watch the same movie I did at that point.
So, do you think you're...
Was it true to the Wonder Woman story that there's like a romance background with Wonder Woman? Yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't make sense in the context of what DC is putting into their universe.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to put time into building the universe properly. They just want to rush everything. And I'm okay. I've liked their other movies. But I think that they owed this character more than that in the context of rushing it. So because they're trying to make this happen faster, just take that element out of this movie. That's what I would have liked to have seen.
So, do you think... Oh, before I get more to your final thoughts on it, I heard there was a lot of comedy involved. More,
there's laughs.
More than needed, or was it well balanced?
No, I don't think it was too much or anything.
Because I know that's part of your gripe with this DC Marvel discussion in movies is that DC is supposed to be this more cynical, dark, foreboding kind of universe, while Marvel is the complete opposite end of that.
There was enough humor where you could very easily tell that they were like consciously going towards more of a lighthearted vibe.
Did any of it feel forced though?
Like, oh, Diana was raised on this island and there's only women there, so she's never seen a man before, so she obviously has questions.
But was it forced, or what? Did it feel natural?
No, it was like your classic like fish out of water comedy at points. Okay. And you're like, okay, well I get where they're going with it. It's not forced because I get where it would be coming from, but like, did it need to happen? No. Would it have happened if they didn't change the tone of the universe?
Probably
no, it would not have happened.
Did you feel that your expectations for this film were set too high, and that's why you didn't like it as much, or as other people have?
I obviously wanted it to be better.
Okay.
So I guess technically speaking, probably my expectations were too high. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think they set us up for our expectations to be high for this film.
I mean, obviously, and again, they pushed it down our throats.
Again, a lot of people are going to like this movie, so that doesn't mean because I didn't like it and because the things that I'm pointing out is bad, a lot of people aren't going to think are bad.
Yeah, but this isn't everybody else's podcast, so...
So I don't think that in any ways the movie should be deemed a failure just because I think there's problems with it, So this is just my layman's point of view on it.
So what would you rate it out of 10 stars?
Like a high 5 or a 6. It's like an average movie. Like, it's not as bad as Suicide Squad. Because
so it's a fail.
Suicide Squad is a bad movie.
That's like a 50%, 60%. It's still failed.
And it's not nearly as good as Batman vs. Superman. And it's not even in the league of Man of Steel.
Which you seem to love for those of you listening who have not heard Matt's opinions on Man of Steel. It's an adaptation of Superman, correct?
Easily, yeah.
Which we have to sit down and watch that film.
Yeah.
We'll get to that eventually. But I don't know. I guess I'm going to wind up going to see it at some point.
I mean, you might even have a different opinion than I do. But to
I'm
me,
sure I will. Yeah, we always have different opinions. So
the whole feminism angle of what Wonder Woman should be about is lost in this movie. There's going to be things you can find in this movie, and you're going to be like, wow, like that's really awesome that that's there. But then, to me, it should have been more.
So let me ask you this then. Do you think that this is going to affect how Marvel approaches their Captain Marvel film?
If Kevin Feige doesn't go see this movie and say, wow, they fucking dropped the ball on that, and then make his Captain Marvel movie like 10 times better and make her be like, I don't need a fucking man, fuck you. Like, that should be like the first thing she says in the movie. Like, some guy should like be like, hey, like, what's up, ma? And she should be like, the fuck away from me. Like, that should be like the first words of the movie.
So, I mean, I guess it's pretty safe to assume this should affect that movie in some way, shape, or form.
I feel like it should in some way.
Especially because Marvel wants to.
I don't feel like it has to. It doesn't have to. Marvel
doesn't
shouldn't
have to.
Marvel
I
shouldn't
agree with that.
let what movies they're making be affected by what DC is doing. Just like DC should have never let what they're doing be affected by what Marvel is doing. But DC very much did let what Marvel's doing affect what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the fact that it shouldn't affect what Marvel's doing. But I don't see them making this Captain Marvel movie after what you say happens with this Wonder Woman film, where she still apparently needs a dude. I don't see them going into making a movie that has to focus around that if they can avoid it at this point. Because then they can be like, well, see, you did it. We did it better. They're going to want to have that one up. And I think,
in all fairness, if like you're a fan of Marvel and they do that, you should say that. Like,
yeah,
it was completely unnecessary. So, and that's really my biggest gripe with the movie. And then after that, like, the editing is really shitty for the whole ending sequence of the movie. Like, I feel like I'm watching, like, a fucking, like, music video for, like, a fucking metal band.
Well,
what the fuck is this shit?
That tends to be a recurring theme through DC films, is editing tends to fall to the wayside at points, at least from what I can gather. Would you say that that's a low point for the DC movies? Editing?
I think there's too many hands in the cookie jar.
Probably.
I had this discussion with somebody else earlier this morning that went to go see the movie, that I think that here's why Marvel making movies is better than DC making movies right now. Because Disney might own Marvel, and Marvel might run its own film division, but nobody runs Kevin Feige.
Exactly.
He runs himself, and he doesn't answer to anybody. So Marvel is just making its own calls, and nobody at DC has the nuts to tell Warner Brother, get the fuck out of my office. I'm greenlighting Booster Gold, and The Miz is going to star in it. Because I'm making fucking super creative shit that the fans are going to love.
Yeah.
Nobody at DC is willing to do that
I think,
right now.
Fuck. Going back to that Booster Gold comment for a minute, I think that's a movie that would do so well for them.
And I'm not the only person that said that.
No, you're not.
Booster Gold should be made, and I've always said it should be The Miz from WWE that should play him. Like, it seems like super obvious casting.
I don't disagree with that.
But,
I completely agree with that.
But like, nobody at DC has the nuts to stand up to Warner Brothers and tell them, like, get the fuck out of my office. Trust us to make this shit, and we'll make you money.
And is that why DC is considered second place, in your opinion? Yeah. Okay, well, I don't know. If anybody listening has rebuttal to anything that Matt has said about this film, please let us know. You can tweet us or Facebook us or leave a comment somewhere or other.
Knock yourself out.
I really want to really hear what people have to say based on your opinion, and counteract your opinions and see what they have to say. Because I think the fact that you didn't enjoy it kind of blows my mind, because you enjoy the movies that DC has made that seemingly nobody likes, and then to go and say that this, which is being helmed as the greatest movie DC has made since the Nolan trilogy of Batman films, and for you to not consider it a good movie, or not, I don't want to say that, but for you to not like it as much as you expected to like it is
Well,
is
we
crazy
talked about
to
this
me.
a couple weeks ago on the podcast, that one thing that worried me was that critics have slammed everything else that DC has done, and I've liked it. And critics love this, and I was worried that I would hate it. Because pleasing critics doesn't fucking get anybody anywhere.
Yeah, but see, it's also at the same time, it's. I'm also seeing it from fans that people love this movie. So I don't
know what they were watching.
That's why I want to get other people's opinions based on what you have said, and when everyone has heard what you said.
Pandering to the pro-Marvel crowd isn't going to get you anywhere, because the pro-Marvel crowd thought that Civil War was a good movie. They thought that Iron Man 2 was a good movie. They thought Iron Man 3 was a good movie. They thought Ultron was a good movie. They're all shit movies. Just going to be honest about it.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, we all know that I'm the Marvel guy here, and I don't think they were at all great movies. I think they had their moments.
They're all like 5s, 6s, like average films.
Like Civil War, to me, I don't think Civil War as a whole was a great film, but I think when they introduced Spider-Man and Spider-Man had his part, was fantastic.
But you shouldn't come out of a movie saying that your favorite part is like, oh, I love that part when Spider-Man shows up, and I love that part when Black Panther showed up.
Yeah, right.
Which is how I came out of the movie. I was like, well, I love when those two characters debuted.
Yeah.
Oh, well, tell me something else you loved about the movie. I don't know. I love the part when the two new characters showed up.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I mean, I guess we're going to have to wait and see what my opinions are once this film comes out.
And
the film's out, but once I
could
go see
give
it.
more opinions on it, but that would get into spoilery territory. But that's kind of where I'm at with the movie.
Well,
I really dig. There were things I really did like about the movie.
I appreciate your consideration to spoilers with your 20-minute discussion of the film so far, and I think that'll give the people at home enough of a chance that if they've been sitting on the fence about going to see this, that they should go see it and make up their minds. I don't want Matt's opinion to sway anybody left or right.
My opinion shouldn't sway you,
but I want to know what everyone at home thinks, and I can't wait to see it so we can come back and kind of give it a full episode treatment and see where we both sit with it.
I think that we could talk about this for a full hour, because there's just a lot of shit happening here that I think deserves to be talked about.
I don't disagree with you, but having not seen the film, it's
because
kind of
even
just
people I know,
ranting.
Even people I know that like the movie said that they don't think it's a perfect movie.
That's fair. I don't know. I've got high expectations still going to see it. As you said, DC painted us into that corner to have high expectations for this film, and I'm not going to drop my expectations based off your opinion. So once I go and see it, we can come back and discuss this. We should, just because I feel a full conversation would do this a much better service.
Okay, fair enough.
So what do we want to move on to next? I know
whatever you want.
I did bring up talking possibly about the Maharaja, the modern day Maharaja. Now it sounds like
Maharaja.
I'm going crazy over here. For those of you who listen to the show who don't watch professional wrestling, why do you listen to the show? But of course I'm referring to the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Mr. Jinder Mahal, who a lot of people on the internet don't seem to care for.
I don't know. I think there's very much two segments on the internet on this one.
I think there's the people like us who see this as being nothing but good because you're making new faces, you're making new stars.
Well, look, I mean, there's a reason why they decided to put the title on him, because he was getting reactions, and there was a groundswell on the internet of people that really were into him.
Yeah.
And I think that those people never expected it to actually happen. And,
Nope.
and some of that segment of people were like, wait a minute. We didn't actually want it. We just wanted to ask for it.
See, I think that's an interesting point, is that there's all these people that want these new stars and want people that haven't been put in the spotlight to be put in the spotlight, but when they do it, and it's not, it's not Finn Balor, or it's not,
Well, thank God for that.
it's not Sami Zayn, and it's Jinder Mahal, people are like, well, that's not who we wanted. And then you don't get to be picky and pick and choose who you want at the top. It's not your company. You're not booking it. You're not Vince McMahon at the end of the day.
It's somebody new. Take what you can get.
Exactly. I don't understand why people are more inclined to want to see Dean Ambrose and The Miz go after each other for a whole year than to see somebody new and fresh at the top of SmackDown. That boggles my mind. I don't understand why people want to see the same boring shit over and over again.
Well, that's the thing. Most of the people don't want to see the same thing.
But then once they change
but they
it,
don't
they
want to
complain
see
about it.
the new thing either.
Then what the fuck do you want? Tell us. What the fuck do you want?
Not that. That's why nobody's watching the product anymore.
Apparently, this past episode of Raw did worse than any episode of Nitro.
It was the lowest rated episode of all time.
Like, the fuck?
It was on a holiday, granted.
True.
But even for a holiday episode, it was the lowest rated ever.
I had a lot of high hopes going into this last episode of Raw with the This Is Your Life segment that Alexa Bliss did. And then once the segment started, I was like, this is a bad idea.
Well,
it was so poorly done.
Had two problems with it. And mind you, I didn't watch Raw this week. I didn't watch SmackDown this week. I'm just burnt out on the product. But
yeah, I'm in the same boat. I only watched Raw because it was on. Honestly, there's nothing really else on a Monday night.
Other stuff. Double negatives in that segment. It was a bad segment and involved Bayley.
I don't think.
I know you like Bayley, but she's just ultra dull television at this point.
I like Bayley. I don't like the way Bayley's being used. I think it's two different things.
It has nothing to do with the way she's used now. It's how she was used like earlier this year at this point.
But
they killed her character.
Yeah, exactly. She needs some sort of revitalization in her character, but that's a completely different topic. This segment, though, the individuals that they had, the extras that they had cast as Bayley's grade school teacher and her ex-best friend and her ex-boyfriend, and then the whole thing with the ex-boyfriend and the best friend loving each other and this, that, and the other thing. It's like, what was the fucking point? Why was that needed? Where would anybody consider that good television?
Those segments are never good television, and people can say, oh, The Rock won and with Mick Foley. They're never good television, ever.
I think the only reason the Rock This Is Your Life was considered good was because, one, it was the first time it had happened. Kind of give it that. Plus,
it's
it
like
was
a
at a time
25-minute segment on a wrestling show that doesn't involve anything wrestling.
But it was also at a time where people weren't as smart to the business as they are now to know that the people in there weren't actually the people who he said they were and those sorts of things.
But
so, I mean, it was what it was. Plus, The Rock is a more compelling character than Alexa Bliss or Bayley. So
no shit.
But back to Jinder Mahal. The response of people who want to cancel their network subscriptions and kind of just boycott the WWE because apparently they see Jinder as a individual who, I don't know, I think these are these brain dead idiots that think because he's speaking a language that's not English, because the guy's speaking, Indian and he's not American, he's Punjab, right? They automatically associate him with being, like a Muhammad Hassan type.
He's not even Punjab.
He's not. He's Canadian. But
Canadian.
But the character that he's portraying, they automatically want to assume it's like a Muhammad Hassan thing where they push that. I don't want to say terrorist gimmick, but they push the edge with that. And I feel like people just automatically assume that this is what this kind of thing is because he's saying, oh, you stupid Americans, this, that, and the other thing. And, it's... I don't know, that's a little unsettling for me. Especially considering that, one, he's not even truly Punjab. Or he could be of Punjab descent, which...
He's a Sikh.
I mean, it's...
He is.
I mean,
I'm just saying. Interviews.
I'm just saying, it's just the whole thing kind of just rubs me the wrong way of why people, aside from the people who are like, oh yeah, we get it, you put the title on him, that's great and everything, but we don't really want him there. And then there's the people who are like, get this scum off my television. I don't that far right idea of why people don't like Jinder sits very uneasy.
I think you might be confusing like some sort of political idealism of it and just like we don't understand that wrestling is fake. There's some people that don't understand that this isn't real. Like, you'll go on the Facebook comments, which are literally my favorite thing in the world. Looking on comments on WWE Facebook posts, it's literally the cesspool of the wrestling industry, but it's also like the funniest place to go if you're smart on the industry.
Which is why we're going to wind up incorporating those comments into future content for us, which we've been discussing. But you'll eventually hear that. But
there's like a large portion of their audience that doesn't understand that the product's not real. And you don't realize that. You don't realize that until you go on to their comments and read what people are saying. And they're saying things like, "Well, I don't understand why Shane McMahon would give him that title shot." Shane McMahon's a guy who plays a character on TV. He doesn't actually have any power in the company.
I just don't understand how anybody could sit there and say that they believe that what they watch on a Monday or a Tuesday is real, unless you're like 12 years old, and even then, I think you should know.
Obviously, the athleticism of it is real. We get that.
I mean,
the sport is real.
Yeah, but it's not Monday Night Football.
But the storyline is not real.
No, it's not, you know.
But these people believe it's real. They really believe that he's a foreign invader and he stole the title.
So then those are the same people that think Randy Orton seriously RKO'd his own stepson?
Yep.
The internet is a blessing and a curse at the same time to the professional wrestling industry.
I mean, I'm not sure how those people, like, how they reckon, like, when they see videos of guys like Randy Orton, like, at home. Like,
and he's not
sure that, like,
freaking out or hearing voices in his head.
I'm pretty sure that, like, those people believe that, like, when Randy Orton's done, like, they just, like, hang him back up on a coat hanger and put him in a closet and then roll him into the big truck and go on to the next town. And then when they get to the next town, they unzip it, unzip the suit bag, pull Randy Orton off the hanger, and put him back out.
See, that's the other thing. It's like when the WWE has become so transparent with the outside of the ring lives of their talent, like, I don't understand how people go in and still think that this stuff is real. Like, how do you, like, when you see videos that they put on WWE.com of, say, like, talent arriving to an arena, and guys like, you know, some of the biggest heels in the company are stopping and signing autographs for people. or like videos of Braun Strowman show up on Facebook of him throwing a Nerf football.
Fucking eating raw steaks.
Like,
yeah.
And then you think that Braun Strowman just wants to kill everybody imaginable. Like, I don't...
Well, how are you supposed to hate a guy like that at that point either? When, like, you, like, see, like, videos of him hanging out with his friends and he's just a fucking goofball.
But it's like, how does anybody...
How do I hate Rusev anymore? Which is why his character is so compromised on TV.
People
can't hate him when they watch him on fucking Total Divas. And he's, like, the nicest fucking guy ever. And they follow him on fucking Twitter. And he's the funniest fucking Twitter follow ever. Like, how do you hate a guy like that anymore? You can't. But there's still people that believe that he's the Bulgarian Nightmare.
I don't understand how people can believe that unless they're people who just have Facebook and they have no other website on their computer.
That's what I mean. I don't understand how that happens anymore, but apparently it does.
Or like when the WWE has the network and they put up something like a 24, or like, and you see these guys talking to the camera on the network, and they're not even close to what their character is. How do people still believe this shit?
I don't know. I think it's... Well, I think one thing is, like, there's so many guys that live the gimmick. Like...
I mean, there are a few.
Carl Anderson talks about, like, oh, I go home to my hot Asian wife, and then he posts videos of his hot Asian wife all the time. It's like, you, like, know that, like, this guy's just living his fucking gimmick all the time.
But then, like...
And, like, AJ Styles is who he is. Like, he goes home, and, like, he's just a family guy, and, like, he just is what he is.
And
like,
he just beats up John Cena everywhere he sees him, so...
But, like, Carl Anderson, like, posting videos last week of his kid beating up John Cena. Like, that's what these guys... Some of these guys blur the line by just being their character, because their character is just an extension of who they are.
But it's like,
I think some of them do that so well that you're like, okay.
But do these people that believe that this is real life also go and see Wonder Woman and believe that's real life?
I don't know.
Like, because it's the same thing.
For every one of those guys, though, there's a Titus O'Neil where he's like a bumbling fool on TV, but then he's like doing TED Talks, and he posted Instagrams today where he was like doing like a benefit with like children with autism.
Titus O'Neil is top guy in my opinion, but
He is.
I don't understand how if you believe wrestling's real, do you believe what you're watching when you go to see a movie is real, or do you have that disconnect? Because they do the same thing with movie stars now. You see them outside of whatever they're doing. They're hosting Saturday Night Live, and there's 6 different people in one night, or they're sitting down and talking to a camera for a press junket, and they're a completely different person than what you're seeing on the screen. But do you believe what you see on the movie screen, or what are you doing?
I have no idea how to approach that. But
I'm sure none of our listeners are in that demographic of people that believe professional wrestling is real. And if you are, I'm sorry, spoiler alert, it's not. But
as it relates to
directly get feedback from somebody who believes that this is real life.
As it relates to Jinder, though, I really don't give a shit what they have to say.
Me either.
Because all that really matters to me is that after the guy wins the title, you go on Twitter, and literally there's not one person that actually works within the industry that has any negative comment to say about Jinder Mahal.
No, exactly.
They're all happy for him.
Yeah.
That he won, and he has followed through on what he said he would do when he got released years ago, and he made it all the way back. At one point after he got released, he was wrestling in front of 30 people in New Jersey, and he made it all the way back to become WWE champion.
Well, that's the only reason they gave him the title, is to give him a name when they release him, right?
Oh, I've heard that.
For those of you who don't follow the comments on these Facebook posts, that was literally one of the comments that somebody justified why Jinder won the title, was because WWE just wanted to give him a reason to be able to book himself on indie shows when he gets released.
But literally nobody has anything bad to say about the guy.
No, nobody who...
People universally like him and wanted to see him succeed.
Yeah.
And when he succeeded, people are genuinely happy for him. And that's really all that should matter.
I think that also comes with knowing the fact that a major reason that this happened, him getting the title, was to push the WWE in India. And I think a lot of people are extremely happy that he is the face of the WWE for the Indian market. I think that's a bigger responsibility than being the WWE champion in and of itself.
Yeah, to a point.
And I think people are extremely happy for him on that front, just as much as they are for the fact that they actually gave him the title. I'm hoping, though, that this title reign goes past, 1 month. I kind of hope it's something that, at least they hold out till SummerSlam.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know who would challenge him there. That's the only thing. So I'm not really sure. But
yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But I don't want this to just be a publicity stunt, because I feel like it's too hot right now to be.
If your thought process was, we'll make Jinder Mahal the champion to be the face of our Indian WWE expansion, or whatnot, they're not touring India till September, I think. So what was the point in making him the champion now?
Well, it's also interesting.
You're going to take the title off of him in a month, and you're not touring till September. It's
also interesting because he's also cutting promos that are face promos to be shown to the Indian audience.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Which is... It wouldn't make sense, like you said, to just give him the title and then be like, oh, well...
I don't remember
we baited them in, and now they're here.
I don't remember who or where the discussion was when I was talking about it, but it was brought up that, do you think that Jinder is going to be marketed like Bret Hart was to the Canadian market in the late 90s?
Yeah.
Is he going to be marketed that way to the Indian market? And abso-fucking-lutely, that's how they're going to market him.
I don't think
where he's
Bret Hart,
a face in India, but he is a heel here.
I don't think Bret Hart was so much marketed that way, just as
he absolutely cut face promos when they were.
No. I don't disagree with that, but I think that was more along the lines of just the fact that
Bret Hart was a face everywhere else in the world except for America.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong.
Because he came out and cut promos, much like Jinder is now.
Yeah,
where he shit on America, and everybody else in the world knows what he's saying is true. So.
Yeah, well, maybe.
No, it's true.
No. But
there's not much else you can say about it until you know where it's going.
Yeah. It's just that we're all extremely happy on this side of the podcast.
I'm super happy for him. The guy has really put in his time, and he has been on the wrong side of the battle for so long. And he went out and put in his time and got himself in shape and worked hard. And why shouldn't he get some success out of it?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Before we close out the Jinder topic, is he on steroids or not?
I don't know, and I also don't see why it matters, to be honest with you. If he is, which he claims he's not, and WWE hasn't popped him on a test yet. If he is, though, if WWE doesn't care, then why do I?
I have this opinion that within, I don't want to call them.
Since when are we, the fans, the fucking morality police
for
what guys can and cannot do?
I don't want to.
When some of the guys that we fucking, he's the best, have fucking popped for this, have popped for that.
We've discussed steroid use in professional sports to some degree within the sports podcast that we
yes, and I've said on that podcast that steroid users should be in the Hall of Fame.
But while I might have my own opinions on using it within professional sports, I don't understand why it would matter within the likes of professional wrestling. It's not giving you a one-up. It's not making you a better wrestler. It's not making you talk better.
Well, I think the point of the matter is that it's illegal, for one. But it's protecting them from themselves. That's why they test for it. But
I mean...
I just don't know why, if WWE doesn't care if he is right now, why the fans should give a shit at all.
I don't know why the fans should care, period.
And it is humanly possible to get a body that looks like that without doing steroids.
Oh, no,
People say that it's not possible, but it is possible.
I mean, knowing independent wrestlers and whatnot who are pretty jacked, not jacked to the extent of Jinder, because if they were, they'd be on, WWE television, but guys that are pretty jacked who are completely natural. So, I mean, I don't disagree that it's possible.
It takes a level of discipline that most people wouldn't understand and could never commit to.
And I think that's another thing. You're
literally eating chicken and rice like 3 times a day, and that's all you're eating.
And I think it also comes back to, Jinder's discipline with, okay, I was released. I looked like shit when I was released. I'm going to do whatever I can
about
to get
how
back
heavily he was drinking the last time he was there and that he looked like shit. I follow his nutrition company on Instagram, and those were one of the first people that posted congratulating him after he won.
Yeah.
They posted a video because he went to go visit them after.
I saw that. That was great.
Yeah.
But
so it's not like the guy didn't commit, whether he is doing something or isn't. He did commit at some level.
And I mean, even if he is taking steroids aren't going to automatically make you look like that.
It's the Barry Bonds argument. You take steroids all you want. It doesn't teach you how to hit a baseball the way you can hit a baseball.
I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting point of discussion there.
Yeah.
What do we got? We got about 15 minutes left on this episode. I did want to talk briefly about the Guardians of the Galaxy ride that opened in Disneyland, mainly because I'm extremely jealous of anybody who's got to experience that ride so far. Because I will probably not get out there anytime within the next 5 years to see it.
What a shame.
But I was kind of when they first announced it, but then once I saw the progression of it.
Who the fuck is against a ride?
No, I mean the fact that they took out the Tower of Terror. But, I mean, it is what it is. It's not like you can't experience the Tower of Terror if you don't want to experience the Tower of Terror. But I was wary about them also putting in, Marvel properties in a larger aspect than character meet and greets.
Did you think that Disney was going to buy Marvel and never make rides out of Marvel properties?
Well, they were extremely hesitant about it because they can't really do anything down in Florida with it. Because of the contract that exists with Universal Studios.
At some point, that's going to expire. And
I don't think it is. I think it's indefinite.
At Disney.
I know that the details of that have not been fully released, but I think it's got something to do with as long as Universal shows that they want to keep the land fresh and update things and have investment in it, kind of like what Fox has with the license to Fantastic Four. Where as long as they pursue a property and making a movie, the rights stay with them for an indefinite period. But again, I don't know that the details of that contract, theme park wise, has ever been fully revealed. But they've been really hesitant as to what they want to do in the theme parks outside of Florida because they don't want to, I guess, alienate markets because I guess for some reason Disney is a fair theme park guest company.
I don't know what that even means.
So I mean,
alienate what market?
So to say that they don't want to have an attraction in one park that they can't put in another park.
Why wouldn't they do that? Because then it gives you a reason to go to one park over the other. Because if they put fucking Star Wars Land in Orlando, then you have to go there. If they put Marvel Land in L.A., Anaheim, then you have to go to Anaheim to go see it.
I think putting a Marvel Land in strictly in Anaheim makes too much sense too, because they have probably more
the
access.
offices are there and everything else for the film division. You can get people that are in the movies to go there for things. And
you probably have a lot more access to, like, if you want to do a prop display, like is what they did with a lot of the stuff before they actually did a meet and greet and stuff, where they had like the Hall of Armor for Iron Man. I'm sure it's a lot easier to get all that stuff there than it is to get it out to Orlando.
Nobody gives a shit about Iron Man.
But I'm just saying, I mean, from a standpoint of business, I wouldn't disagree with having strictly Marvel out on the West Coast. I mean, makes sense. But
there's no reason why Disney shouldn't do something like that, though, where they build location-specific things to make people want to go destination-specific.
Yeah.
Please, by all means, give me a reason to want to go to Disney. I don't want to fucking go to Disney. But when that Star Wars Land opens, I'm going to Disney.
But the Guardians attraction specifically, of course, it's themed like the collector's. I don't want to say the collector's vault. The collector has brought his collection to display.
It's the collector's house.
But the theming is amazing. The fact that there's a Cosmo animatronic in the vault, and that there's some really cool Easter eggs in there, like Beta Ray Bill's hammer and the Celestial masks. And I don't want to look too far into it, that Beta Ray Bill's hammer is there, things of that nature are there, because they specifically said when they were theming the ride and when they did the press, tour of the ride, that things within the collector's vault that are on show could be things that we've seen already, could be seeing in the future, could never see at all. So they kind of covered their bases there. But there's also some artifacts in the vault that kind of hint to Namor. And does Namor live in Atlantis? Is it considered Atlantis?
Basically,
it's basically Atlantis. Yeah. I mean, they talk about artifacts from an underwater city and civilization and things like that. It's also got a lot of really cool props in there from, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's some stuff in there like Terrigen crystals and stuff. And apparently they're going to rotate things in and out of there. So stuff that's there now might not be there 6 months from now, a year from now, which would be interesting to see what they throw in there to keep the Marvel fans happy. But the ride itself also looks pretty fucking epic, just because they put a lot of detail into it. It's not just a Tower of Terror with Guardians thrown over it. They completely, rethemed it, and it's not a go up to one level and just drop kind of thing now. It's a up and down kind of anti-gravity kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I've been enthralled with this ride since the day it opened, and following, just seeing, the press stuff, and it's impressed me, and I felt like talking about it to some extent. I don't know. Anything else you want to discuss?
Not really.
Not
really.
With
the ride.
No, not with the ride. I mean, in general, anything else?
No, nothing's really come up.
Okay, so let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
If Disney were to do a Marvel Land, what type of experiences would you want to see?
Fantastic Four.
Okay.
X-Men. Deadpool Land.
With
all the shit they can't do.
No, okay, so then with what they do have access to, what would you pay money to go and experience? Because they did do an Iron Man ride, I want to say, in Hong Kong Disneyland.
I want to see that shit.
No, but I'm just saying they did one of those, and it's
why does everything Marvel have to be fucking Iron Man anymore?
I don't know.
I gotta see fucking Iron Man 4 Homecoming.
But they did an Iron Man ride, I think it's in Hong Kong, where it's basically a Star Tours type ride.
They should do the World's Fair, presented by Howard Stark.
So they should do the Stark Convention.
Yeah.
What was it called?
I don't know, fucking Stark World, something like that.
Which is interesting because apparently there are posters that they put up within the Marvel small Marvel area that they have in Disneyland that are of the Stark convention. Of course, there would have to be a Spider-Man attraction.
Oh, but of course.
But of course, I would really hope that if I know they don't have a lot to work with, and I really would hope that they didn't have to completely remove a shit ton of stuff out there. But I'd really like to see a very well-themed, large, interactive world. Kind of what Universal did with Islands of Adventure back when it was, the 90s. and the little theming that they put into it kind of made it more immersive.
As long as it was like Great Adventure, where they had like people like running around in fucking Red Skull costumes.
I don't think you're gonna wind up seeing pseudo Nazis in a Disney park. Just saying.
That'd be so great.
Just saying.
Yeah, it could be a lot of fun. I don't really know what. Look, like fucking everything Marvel takes place in fucking New York, so just fucking put New York in fucking Anaheim, and then you'll have everybody fucking waddling around New York out there.
See, then they could that would be prime place to bring it would be to then the Hollywood studios. Because they've already got basically a New York setup that they could use. And they've been doing that here and there. They did Doctor Strange, a meet and greet with Doctor Strange in Hollywood studios. But I don't know, like I said, the whole details of that contract with Universal, if they can put an attraction or if it's just character meet and greets, or if it's not even meet and greets because it's anytime they've had a Marvel character in Disney World, aside from Star-Lord most recently, it's been like a show. So it's been like not specifically marketed as a meet and greet where you can go and meet said character, but obviously they're there and they're not gonna not let you take a picture with the character, but it's always been marketed as an experience or whatever. I don't know. I would pay to go to Anaheim if they did a whole Marvel land. Just saying. You want a DC land at Disneyland?
They have that. It's called fucking Great Adventure. They have DC lands all over the place.
All right then. Oh well, wait. While we're on the theme park discussion, I did show you the concept for a potential WWE theme park.
I don't care about that at all.
I know you don't care about it, but do you think it would be a profitable venture for them?
No. Who's going to that? The same people that are going to that are the same people that post on their fucking Facebook posts.
Yeah, the people that think it's real. And
I don't know why Shane McMahon would build this roller coaster. It's shit.
Fuck. But if they did wind up doing a theme park, where would you think they would put it?
Of course, it would be fucking Orlando.
We'll
find some land somewhere.
It'll be Orlando, but it'll actually be like Winter Garden.
Probably.
And then
nobody gives a shit about.
And then do you think that they would wind up making an actual Hall of Fame that you could visit and
probably be on the grounds of the theme park?
And then would they host events there?
This is the whole point of making this theme park idea, so that they can house everything on the same grounds. They don't have to use Full Sail anymore. Guarantee that's part of the thinking, too. They'll build some sort of arena on the site, so they don't have to use Full Sail anymore. They'll still use the Full Sail students, but they'll use them out of their building, so that they don't have to use the building anymore.
If that's the plan, if they want to go through with this...
Why would that not be part of the plan? Even if they're not building it in Orlando, I guarantee you they're building some sort of arena as part of it.
Then do they build an arena
Not a big one, a small one that they can do NXT in.
Yeah, but then it's also got to be something where you can bring the major superstars to, because you're going to have a theme park and you're not going to bring in AJ Styles to meet fans or wrestle in front of people. People who are paying probably like $100 just to get into a theme park.
Who pays $100 to get into a theme park?
That's the going cost of getting into Disney or Universal anymore.
I don't go to Disney.
I'm not saying you do, but this would be a Disney level park, I would assume.
No, it wouldn't.
Oh, come on. It wouldn't be a Six Flags type thing.
They can barely charge $10 a month to get people to watch their shows. They're going to charge $100 to get people to go to their dumb theme park?
I don't know.
That's not going to happen.
I don't know.
No.
You don't think that's going to happen at all?
Nope. For what? I don't think the theme park's going to happen.
But do you think they'll wind up building their own sound stage?
This is going to happen just
thing?
like the fucking casino happened, where they're going to talk about it for 10 years and it's never going to happen.
I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them to actually develop the idea. If it ever actually happens, that's a completely different story. But I wouldn't put it past them to
The
develop
only
the
way it
idea of a theme
happens
park.
is if it happens in Orlando.
I don't see it happening anywhere else, to be honest with you.
Because it's still a tourist destination place where people that are going to Disney will be like, oh, let's go to that fucking dog shit WWE land while we're here. We can see fucking NXT.
Well, here's a question.
And ride the
Would you
dumb
be
roller coasters.
Would you be opposed to, say, since WWE is partnered with NBC Universal, would you be opposed to seeing them putting a WWE land in, say, Islands of Adventure?
I don't see how that helps them any.
Because then they're licensing their brand to them. And they're going to obviously wind up getting some part of the admission costs. And
The only way that I think that really helps them is that it fucks TNA.
well, it doesn't necessarily fuck TNA.
How are you, WWE, making a deal with Universal and then still letting TNA run out of there, too?
That's been happening for years.
There's no way they're going to run out of
WWE is
Universal.
partnered with NBC, and WWE has appeared on Universal property at the same time that TNA was taping.
Right, but you're not going to run some sort of event there and still let TNA run an event there as well.
I don't know. I don't necessarily know that Universal would be put off to the idea of opening a WWE themed area.
If you're
at the
making
extent
money
of
with
losing,
the WWE and not making money with TNA,
the extent of losing TNA, I don't know. Just throwing hypotheticals out there because it's possible. I mean,
it's not possible. It's not going to happen. So.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the potential that if WWE wanted a theme park presence and didn't want to build their own park, there is potential that they could.
It's this theme park presence idea, where like big theme park is like where the money making venture is now.
It's WWE. They started a football league and they had a restaurant.
Sounds like another one of like Vince's like Ralph Cramden get rich quick schemes. Like he's like, oh, let's start a football league, pal, and he makes no money on that. And he's like, oh, let's open a restaurant, pal, and makes no money on that. Let's open a casino, pal, and realizes he's never going to make any money on that, and never happens. So let's open a theme park, pal. Nope. Never going to happen.
Who you got your pal quota in?
Just saying. It's exactly how he would say it.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to close out another episode of the Deep Six Podcast. Matt, you want to let them know where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at @TheMattBarnes and Instagram at @TheMatthewBarnes.
And of course, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Steven_Spivak. And then you can find the Deep Six Podcast over on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, I don't know, Tinder, all the above.
Grindr.
At Deep Six Podcast. One word. Links to everything at deep6podcast.com. Come back in 2 weeks for another episode of the Deep Six Podcast. A hashtag Deep Six Podcast brand. Until next time. Oh, geez. I got a frog in my throat there for a second. Until next time.
That Kermit crap.
We'll see you later.